All right, we're back on the show on the Money Business and Economy show right here on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Still Tunji Andrews, still with you on the show. And with me in the studio, we're going to be talking about basically making the insurance sector work in Nigeria, at least work for us. And of course, it's one of the first questions I'm going to ask my guests on the show. Nigeria really, at this particular point, has an insurance penetration of about 0.4%. Which is less than 1%, right? City of Lagos, let's put this in context. Kenya has an insurance penetration of 2.9%. South Africa has an insurance penetration of 16.9%. We have an insurance penetration of 0.4%. It's not even up to 1%. And there's so much to be done, really. So much to be done. There's so much work to be done. How do we do it? What do we do? What are the low-hanging fruits? Where do we go first? Who do we talk to? That's what we're going to be talking about on the show today. And with me, I have from Old Mutual, two distinguished young men, old friends. Old friends also. First of all, I have the CFO, that's the Chief Finance Officer of Old Mutual, Afolabi Lawal. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tunji Andrew.
All right, and we also have Kayode Odetola, retail mass market from Old Mutual, also in the studio. Good morning, welcome.
Thanks, Tunji. Good morning, Nigeria.
So great to have you guys. So first of all, let's start. How did we, with all our noise, all our, we're the giants of Africa, we're the fashionable people we know, we are bougie. How come just about 0.4%, we have just 0.4% penetration when it comes to insurance? And we all know about insurance. A lot of us travel. A lot of us see how important it is to have insurance outside the country. In fact, I don't even think it's almost possible to even travel without insurance. At least, okay, it's not like there's a law, but I mean, it's just, natural thought. How come we're still at 0.4%? I'll let you start.
Okay,
Kayode.
Thanks, Tunji. I think it's one question we often grapple with. There are several reasons that have been given for the state where you find Nigeria itself. I think the first and most important will be trust. So very many people don't really trust what the benefits of insurance can potentially do. And because in an environment where people refuse to die, and
not that they don't, but they
actually do.
Even when they are about to pass on, they still tell you, the faith, I will not die. Or
so insurance has a slogan. You say insurance and you say death, and then people will say God forbid.
Yeah.
So it's a big problem. Coupled with the fact that the truth is we have a largely predominantly illiterate, not illiterate in the sense, but in terms of financial education, illiterate people who are not able to understand the very basic
context,
financial decisions and context around that.
So, Fola, let me come to you. One of the things, we see that South Africa is at 16.9%, and it's a no-brainer. Even if you watch, our biggest cable company here is South African. And we see a lot of their insurance adverts being pushed on us here, even if those companies are not here in Nigeria. You see that almost everything is in, they are thinking about insurance of their, preparing for their death. I even see things like, if you get insured with us, if you went out to party, you don't need to drive home, we'll come and drive you. And all sorts of things, you get your money back. This constant sensitization, this constant talking, this constant. Why don't we have that level of sensitization in Nigeria where, the insurance companies, you guys are in front of our eyes so that, even if we try not to, if we pretend not to understand, the information is so there that we just have to, get insured.
Thank you very much, Tunji. Kayode was spot on when he mentioned awareness. So the word is the awareness. So we are beginning to do that, to actually deepen awareness in that particular sector.
Yeah.
So again, another point is the culture around here that it said that, I'm not going to exit, I'm going to live forever. But we know the only certainty in life are taxes
and death.
So it's going to happen. So we as insurance companies, we are beginning to create products that actually speak to what people really want. Okay, you don't want to exit, but you want to save for a particular purpose. So we create a product that meets your need.
Exactly.
And put a risk rider right on top of that.
Can we even start a campaign saying you will die? you know, because I think we need to realize that it's not a. Okay, so we are very religious people, which of course is not a. I'm not even sure if it's a good thing, but it's not a bad thing in itself. But then it does, negates the discussion about insurance, because, I mean, we have seen those situations where if a wife tells the husband you need to get life insurance, the man automatically thinks,
you want to kill me?
You want to kill me. Your planning is this your plan? But okay, so I did see news from the National Insurance Commission and NICOM, and they're looking to rebrand the sector. Of course, I mean the sector wide, everybody in the sector, irrespective of your brand affiliation, realizes that there's so much to be done in the industry. How much do you think efforts of NICOM will help the sector as a whole?
Yeah, so NICOM has done a fantastic job in the last couple of years in trying to raise that awareness and also help insurance companies to become a bit more responsible with respect to what they promise and in terms of what they deliver. Very recently, we also got a circular, and I think most insurance companies have also gotten the same circular, talking about the need to entrench or implement compulsory insurance. So, and that leads me to the area of an enabling environment or regulation. When we talk about insurance in Nigeria, you find out that a lot of what we really speak about are those things that are not non-life related.
Yeah.
So you talk about insuring vehicles, you talk about insuring goods, cargo, and all of that, to the detriment of the part that the human plays.
True.
In so many other countries, you see that life insurance takes the forefront because that is how you actually get to affect the lives of individuals. Today we talk about an economy that is improving, and the average man on the streets will say to you, I have not felt that improvement because it hasn't trickled down to my table. Right? It's the same thing with insurance. Until the average man on the streets
gets in.
Yes, that's where you start to see the revolution and the numbers start to then tick. So what really do we need to do? It starts from the enabling environment. Allow me to use an example. I'll use the example of M-Pesa, and I'm sure we've all heard about M-Pesa before.
So, by the way, City of Lagos, M-Pesa is a mobile money service in one of our African neighbors countries, where it became so big that it became bigger than some of the banks in that country, and it's sort of threatened not really threatened the banking sector, but it made it a viable alternative. You must also learn about this because it is one of the concerns of the CBN in trying to restrict mobile money. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So that just a bit of context.
Yes, so let me put a context around that as well. You'd find out that with M-Pesa, the major driving force was trust.
Yeah.
M-Pesa was
I know
launched.
The person I'm going to give the money to,
Yes.
at least if he can run, it's only
And it was
together.
it was just the little window that cost M-Pesa. So the banks in Kenya at that point in time had a 3-day window where they had issues, and M-Pesa stepped in, right? And after they stepped in, very basic structure, people were able to, they knew who they were giving it to and all of that. Within the period when the banking sector had to then get its act together, they had gained ground. Now, later on, government again indirectly or unconsciously fueled it because they decided to say, if a lot of people are on M-Pesa, why don't we pay pensions via M-Pesa? And so whilst M-Pesa was, just growing, the environment was more or less flaming that growth. And it just went on and on until today you can actually buy treasury bills and bonds via M-Pesa.
Everything. I can remember I was speaking to the head of the stock exchange in Kenya, and he was saying they've created an M-Pesa version where you buy stocks. So it's basically an M-Pesa sub product, but you use it to buy stocks and trade shares.
So I often joke with Falabi every time I said, and we still said that this morning. I said, imagine we wake up tomorrow morning, and just similar to what the government had done via the Senate, saying compulsory insurance, let's try and implement, and a rule is stated to say everyone above the age of 21 years old, in addition to your national ID card, your international passport, or whatever it is, show evidence that you have some form of life insurance. We wouldn't be having this discussion today.
True. I totally agree. But is it possible to pass such a law? Because you do realize that the incentives to want to get insured are massive, especially if you travel to the States, for instance. As a Nigerian, if you are living here, you're traveling to the States, you know that if you don't have insurance there, nothing better happened to you. In fact, you need to wrap yourself with bubble wrap so that you have no cuts. Nothing was happened to you, or else you will pay through your nose to be able to get any sort of health treatment. How do we? Because we need to look for the incentive. We have a massive population. Healthcare is a problem in Nigeria. I mean, getting adequate healthcare, so much so that even our office holders tend to go abroad for healthcare. But if we have a large pool, then we can fund healthcare. But the large pool must come first before the healthcare itself comes. So how do you think? How do we do this? Because I'm thinking if we can sort of, just mind wash everybody and say, get insurance, and everybody's putting aside a little. Your little income, your little contribution. Your big income, your big contribution to a large pool, say several trillions of naira, and from that investment we can invest in hospitals, get healthcare, get this, and then everybody gets covered. But how do we do it?
Thank you very much, Tunji. You've just explained the principle upon which the National Health Insurance Scheme works. Purely insurance. Insurance works on the principle of large number. So for us at Old Mutual, what we continue to do is to deepen awareness. We're going around educating people on the benefit of insurance. The incentive there is that it's in your own self-interest to actually get insurance. When we explain finance to people and we talk them about diversified portfolio, like this morning we've spoken about the capital markets, then the money market, we say get real assets. I realize that insurance itself is also an asset class.
True.
And why is insurance?
Naturally.
It's an asset class because it limits the downside. So you can imagine.
Helps you protect your risk.
Protects your risk. So meaning that you are free to do what you want to do. So imagine you drive a car your own car without insurance, and say the car is damaged or stolen. It could set you back. It could set your portfolio back.
It set a lot of things back.
About millions of naira.
I remember seeing something, funny story. I saw something at that phase one roundabout where a guy, I think a lady had scratched him, and I'm not sure why she refused to come down from the car to apologize or whatever it was. But this guy was enraged and he was making such a scene. He was really embarrassing himself out there. He was really making a scene. But I was in the car with somebody and I said he doesn't have car insurance.
I was going to say that. Okay, so
because you could tell why he was that angry.
So you can see the peace of mind there. You can see the peace of mind. And having that peace of mind improves your health.
True.
So that is where insurance helps. So when you have that insurance protection over your assets, over household, you know that any loss will not set you back. So insurance puts you back where you were before that loss. So just continue from that place.
All right, so I'm reading something from the Chartered Insurance Institute of Nigeria, and they said they've created something, a youth empowerment program called Catch Them Young for Youth Corps members, and basically it's trying to let them know about insurance from a very early stage, which of course is fantastic. But I mean, is it working? innovations, the sensitization programs, are they working? Are we seeing more and more people come into the insurance fold? People who don't have to come into the fold is because, I mean, somebody that has a car, he needs to get car insurance.
Absolutely.
Those people that don't have to come in, say an SME who thinks, hey, I need to get insurance for my family, or I need to get insurance for my business. Are we seeing more people like that come into the fold?
So it's interesting because the terrain is actually changing, and I think it's a good initiative from CIN.
Yeah.
Primarily because a large percentage of our population are basically youths, and the youths are the most vulnerable.
Yeah. By all means,
the most vulnerable. Now, if we take that and just juxtapose it to what CBN is doing around financial inclusion, the question we're really asking ourselves is, we have 180 million people in Nigeria who really don't want to buy insurance. That's the truth.
Who don't want to?
That's
even actually the key factor here.
So, education is the forefront. Fola has mentioned what Old Mutual is trying to do around education. This year alone, we've reached out to over 20,000 people to say, just understand the basics, and then you are better equipped to make financial decisions.
Yeah.
Around financial inclusion, one missing piece that we see is how to leverage on everything we're doing today and incorporating that bit of insurance into it, such that you open up. We hear about BVN today.
Yeah.
Why can't every BVN holder have some form of basic life insurance?
Sure.
Those things speak directly to the numbers, and the work that we're putting so much effort on, the advocacy and everything that is happening today, would only be then bolstered by the collaborative efforts of every
So
single...
then it begs the question, why isn't the insurance community putting pressure on the National Assembly to pass some sort of law? Because the way I see it, right, it benefits us if the insurance sector as a whole kicks off. Because from the insurance sector being having a larger pool, we know that the health sector can be totally revolutionized in Nigeria. Because, I mean, when so we do see what happened in the pensions side of things.
Absolutely.
Because of greater reform, the pension schemes are working. People know that they will get their pensions at a particular date. I even found, I saw a headline a couple of days ago, the guys that are going to retire in 2019 are already having their names verified from now.
Yes.
I think that's not a Nigerian concept, as they were doing it a year before. Normally the Nigerian context is they've now retired, they will now come and line up, and then they will now start verifying, then they will now finish verification in 2021.
So that model that you described has taken a slightly different face as well, talking about pensions.
Yeah.
So now we know there's a draft guideline that's actually talking to people who do not have up to 3 people in their employment.
Yeah.
So you are looking at the self-employed, people who have their own businesses.
Yeah.
In other words, they've looked at it and they've said, you know what, we seem to be covering a significant part of the informal sector.
True.
There is a huge gap
in the informal sector,
and this is what we think we want to do to be able to cover that gap. That's exactly what needs to happen with insurance as well.
Boom. So why are we not late? Because we need to go and pressure the National Assembly to pass laws that would, because now from the way I see it, it's not okay. So it looks selfish, but it's important for national development. While it helps the insurance sector grows, the health sector grows, the car manufacturing. The car manufacturing sector grows. I mean, because if I'm thinking about it, if car insurance is more standardized, because right now we have a lot of fake third-party insurance, but if everybody has proper insurance, that means, I mean, I know if I'm buying a second-hand car, I know it's been properly taken care of because it's been insured for a number of years. I mean, those are the things. It trickles that everybody gets the benefit.
Yes. So you're right. NID, because you started to talk about car insurance, and that's one way by which you actually feel the effect of the government itself in a way to regulate that sector. So Even the guy who buys the average third-party insurance knows that it's in his best interest to get the right one.
Yeah.
Because with just a few checks on the road, they're able to determine if you have the right
one or not. Yeah.
Take that a step further, and we must commend NICOM. We, like I said earlier on, we've seen changes. The recent draft around insurance companies giving their inputs to what needs to happen around compulsory insurance in Nigeria is also a step in the right direction. What we honestly believe is that it's been taken in phases, right? We may not have the luxury of time, and we don't also want a catastrophe at the same time.
True,
so it has to work hand in hand. The bulk of the people who need the insurance are those guys on the streets.
True.
And
without
once
a
you're
doubt,
able to-
the most vulnerable in the society, those people that can't walk into a hospital and pay 10,000 to see the doctor. Yes, I'm looking at you, that hospital. Yes, you know yourself.
In fact, if you look at the EFNA report in 2015, it says it ranks the things that we borrow money the most for in Nigeria, and it says that funerals are a big deal. People actually borrow for funerals. You know what it means for you to have a funeral plan, for example? In Ghana, in India, and in South Africa, the plans that sell the most are funeral plans. In India, for example, when a graduate finishes from school, if you think of Nigeria, we want to buy a car, we want to rent a house, and all of that. In India, the status is that you have some funeral cover for your parents, because God forbid if they die, it's a big deal.
I'm telling you, it's actually going to take a lot for Nigerians to be able to, take in funeral plans. But the thing about it is, I mean, we need to really start to speak some home truths to ourselves, especially in the health area where you are ill and the person is saying he's strong. I totally am all for faith. I'm all for faith, but these things are real. You tend to fall ill from time to time, and there's a place for God, there's a place for science, there's a place for. I mean, it's even God that gave the knowledge to be able to, exactly.
Yeah, that's the culture that we
so there's some
speak about,
there's some things. I mean, I personally, I know God is in His infinite mercies, but if I were God, I would be laughing at a lot of things. I was like, oh, dude, just go to the doctor, for God's sake.
Still on the funeral policy, this is what we are saying to you, that don't lose your parents and still also lose your money. So this is where insurance comes in.
Exactly.
Insurance, it's an asset for
Start
us.
planning for it
So
now.
you don't have two losses. You lost
At
your
the same
parent, a
time.
loved one, and you're also losing money.
There was one supermarket, one of those major supermarkets in Lekki Phase 1 that burned to the ground some years ago.
Yeah.
Do you know my thought? I hope he has insurance.
Yes.
Do you know, I was really scared when I saw it, because I know this is millions and millions in losses.
Yes. And if
he didn't have, I'm sure probably somebody had spoken to him about it, and he's like, are you trying to destroy my company?
Remember, they were able to continue on the other side.
On the other side. So, yes, I knew they had
We
insurance.
brought them back to the same base that they were.
So you talked
insurance
about,
actually worked.
so you spoke about, in line with what the example you just used, you spoke about SMEs. You mentioned it in passing earlier on. And you really actually would find out that the average guy who sells at Akpongbong, for example, number one, he's not thinking of death.
Yeah.
So selling a product that is just a death cover to him, it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
But if you look at the spectrum, so he has a family, his life is there, people depend on him. He has a shop or a stall, and he has goods in that stall.
Yeah.
Right? If I came to him and said to him, you know what, I can provide you an SME cover that encapsulates everything.
You're
starting to
your
speak
work,
his language,
your
because
business.
you've said, I've analyzed, I've diagnosed who you are, I've looked at everything, and this is what exactly you need. More or less providing need, some form of need analysis to be able to arrive at what it is. And we have a lot more. The bulk of the transition or the growth you're seeing in Nigeria now is coming from that space. And we need to start to turn our attention to just be able to provide some basic level. Mind you, once you have the basic level in place, 1, 2, 3 people. We don't pray that anybody dies.
No.
But once you're able to fulfill the requirements for 1, 2, 3, 4 people, everyone else would just get it and
All right,
and
so
go.
City of Lagos, I just looked up and realized that time just flew by. I don't know how that happened. I think somebody stole the time. But we've had Afolabi Lawal, CFO, Old Mutual, and Kayode Odetola, retail mass market at Old Mutual, also speaking to us about how to make insurance work in Nigeria. The context, if there's anything you're going to go away with on the show, is realizing that insurance needs to work for everybody. It sounds like it's insurance companies that stand to gain, but if insurance works, health sector works. If insurance works, cover. The fact that we don't even have to lose a lot works for everybody. So it's in our own best interest that insurance works in Nigeria, particularly for health insurance, for healthcare in Nigeria, because I have come to realize that it is probably one of the most expensive things, and it is one of the reasons why a lot of Nigerians, tend to pass away for flimsy things, because they, instead of going to the hospital, they tend to self-medicate. That is probably one of our biggest issues. Thank you very much again, guys, for coming into the studio. Good friends we've known for years, both of them in different capacities, but yes, they're here together at representing Old Mutual. Thank you very much, guys, for being with us in the studio. So City of Lagos, still covering the economy for the rest of the week. Our job on the show is to provide solutions to what's happening in and around the Nigerian economy, and it basically help you understand it and make sense of it all. Look at your timepiece, City of Lagos. It's 3 minutes after 10. Still a very young morning. To go out and be profitable.